Good morning, guys. Different way of teaching here. Not seeing you in the classroom. Going to use the camera to be able to kind of go over some of the things we haven't had a chance to go over yet. The unit we were going to begin before you guys left was food and agriculture. One of the better units because it really hits home with us when it comes to us using food every single day. And you see that it's a scarce commodity. It's becoming a scarce commodity for people across the world, especially in times what we're in right now. And let's just speak about what we're in right now. Don't become overwhelmed with this. Bear with me. First time I've ever done this. Doing it for each class. Just kind of going to go over a PowerPoint or two with you once a week. Give you an assignment to go along with it and be done with environmental science for that week. So one assignment that goes along with the PowerPoint as I try to introduce some of this stuff to get it across to you to help you learn it. Now, if you're seniors, you guys have fulfilled your credits. You guys are good, but you juniors, make sure you try to do this, okay? Some interesting stuff. There is one, we do always watch Food Inc., Food Incorporated during this lesson, during this unit, which is really shows you how our food gets produced. And sometimes once we do that, people don't want to eat food anymore, all right, for a little while because of some of the nastiness that goes on with it. Well, we have regulations now and all those different regulations, and it really helps us in being able to produce our food, which is why I think it is more important to eat local based off of these big companies. And we'll talk about why. So just bear with me here. Here we go. Just talking about fertilizers, pesticides, our farming methods, and GMOs is what we'll talk about to begin with. Today, we'll talk about fertilizers, pesticides, and farming methods. Next week, I'll touch on GMOs, but today it's just those first three. So I'm going to kind of skip around this PowerPoint as we go through it. Fertilizers. We talk about fertilizers here. We have two different kinds. We have organic and inorganic. Obviously, organic fertilizers, organic matter from plants or animals. It typically comes from animal manure. So a lot of times when we're here throughout Ohatchee, we see a lot of times we go down the road, we get this terrible smell. People have put manure out in their fields, out in their pastures, in their gardens to try to help the plants grow. Another type of organic fertilizer I know that we've done in the past with my parents when we used to have a garden at home was with Dad having planting tomatoes. We would go crappie fishing always this time of year. We come home, we clean the fish. Once the fish got cleaned, we dug the holes, we took the guts from the fish, put it inside there, and those tomatoes did great. That is another organic fertilizer. One thing you can do, which I hope some of you are doing right now, I hope you're making a garden at home. Go fish it, take that stuff, put it in the tiller, till it up. It'll help it. It will help your garden a whole bunch. That's something they used to do back in the old days. So that's organic fertilizers. That's things that we see, things we do. The new thing is inorganic fertilizers. Fertilizers that are produced commercially, usually done by combusting of natural gas, which allows nitrogen from the atmosphere to be fixed and captured in fertilizers. We've talked about nitrogen fixation. We've talked about ammonia and how ammonia has to get converted. We've talked about that in class this year. So that is one of the things that we use here. And you see here in the bottom right-hand corner, you see the picture of the tractor. And you see a lot of large, when you have these big farms that have to mass produce, that's what they're going to use, the inorganic fertilizers. And they use this, and a lot of times it does have a lot of chemicals in it, but those chemicals have to be approved, and we have to be able to use those chemicals to help us drive down the cost of plants. The next thing, the history of the pesticides. This pesticides were first used 4,500 years ago, so sulfur was used as an insecticide. We know sulfur. We can't just directly consume sulfur anymore. Just like we talked about with the partial flume in our, we talked about water. The partial flume took that sulfuric acid, took those sulfurs, the sulfates and all that stuff, and it changed it, all right? It changed it over into the sulfates and changed it over into the sulfites. So it went from the sulfur to the sulfate to sulfites because it puts oxygen into it. So that was one thing that we used. During the 15th century, arsenic, mercury, and lead were used as insecticides. We know those things are poisonous now. So be glad you didn't live in the 1400s, okay? Perithium and retinin were derived from plants. They were introduced in the 19th century. So in the 1800s, we're trying to be a little bit more efficient. We come back, we know these two chemicals end up having a side effect on people. After World War II, we introduced DDT, Delgin, and 2,4-D. It became widely used. You see now a lot of times you can still get your hands on 2,4-D and you still see DDT out there. So those things, I know I've been told stories before by my uncle that he said that when the trucks would come by, they would spray the DDT, because the DDT is now used to help kill mosquitoes. They would spray the DDT and produce this fog, and kids would just run through it, which is not good for you. All right, so we know that now, but 25 years ago, 30 years ago, we didn't understand those things. 2,4-D is used a lot of times now for us to be able to help kill weeds, is what we use it for. We don't use it as much on our food anymore. And in the early 1970s, glyphosate emerged to become the most widely used herbicide in the United States, which we still use today. Benefits of it, all right? We drive the cost down. If we did not have the pesticides that we used, all right, inorganic or whatever it may be, when we introduce these pesticides, food would cost 50% more than what it does now. Just like yesterday, I go buy a thing of jalapenos that were $3. Hey, those things may cost me $4.50 next time if it increases at if it increases it that much by 50%. Avocados probably $2 to $3 per one. If you need 5 or 6 avocados, your price, if we didn't have pesticides, could be $12 to $13 just for those instead of $3 or $4. So those are pesticides. They increase food production. Like we said, they increase farmers' profits by minimizing their losses. Because when you don't, you see this picture. We have this caterpillar here that's eating the tomato. So that is something there, when we deal with that we're trying to get rid of. You see a lot of times at home with your garden, you see a lot of times your parents may put 7 Dust on their plants. You can buy 7 Dust at Lowe's, you can buy it at your local hardware store, wherever you need to get it, but you sprinkle the 7 Dust on there and it helps those plants. It also comes in a spray form that you can spray it with. And that is just simply a pesticide that we use at home a lot of times. Pesticides, though, we know are a substance that kills and controls organisms that people consider pests. We have insecticides. If you have an insecticide, it's just insects that are getting on those plants. This is what happens a lot of times. And the insecticides, we're targeting the insects, and that's what we're trying to kill. Or a herbicide, we're targeting plants that may harm the plants that we're growing. So insecticides and herbicides. Broad spectrum pesticides and selective pesticides. Broad spectrum, designed to kill many different types of pests. That's a lot of times what you're going to see your farmers are going to use, unless they're using one type of crop and they know what animals are getting on there. But a broad spectrum, you have many things planted in your garden. That 7 Dust would be a broad spectrum because it's going to kill many different things. If you have selective pesticides designed to kill a narrow range of organisms, say you have corn and a certain pesticide gets in corn, they take that pesticide that they need and that's all they spray, so it helps them save a little bit of money. A selective pesticide may be a little more expensive, but they don't have to use as much of it because they're only focusing on that one plant. We keep going here. They can be persistent or they can be non-persistent. Obviously, if they're persistent, they're going to hurt the environment for a long time. And that's one thing we want to try to get away from when we begin to talk about the environment. We begin to talk about the environmental problems with this stuff. Is not having persistent pesticides that just keep eating away at the environment and keep degrading the soil and these type of things. So non-persistent, they break down relatively rapidly, usually in weeks to months, and that's usually what we want. Because we have that time frame here where we grow things for 6 or 7 months, we don't want it to have to affect things, in the winter time. I'm going to skip this one. Now, we got the farming methods. We have conventional agriculture, traditional farming, shifting agriculture, and nomadic grazing. Conventional agriculture, industrial agriculture, where labor is reduced and machinery is used, okay? What we see today, you have different farmers here throughout the United States, here just even locally in Alabama and Calhoun County, where you don't see a whole lot of people out there planting the different rows of whatever we're planting. It's done by machines today because it's much more efficient. It's much more time-saving. Traditional farming, though, still uses the developing farm where human labor is used and not machinery. Okay, so those are some things. Shifting agriculture and nomadic grazing. Nomadic grazing is one that we see, moving herds of animals to find productive feeding grounds. That's something you may see. You don't see done a whole lot anymore, but those are really our main three. We keep going. Monocropping, growing a large amount of a single species of a plant. Okay, so again, here you see this is wheat. We have a big wheat field, so we're just growing just this plant using just this plant. So therefore, we can use selective pesticides to spray these, and once we use the selective pesticides to spray these, we're cutting down on our costs. When they do the monocropping, obviously, they can hone in on just one thing that could be harming that, and now we're helping ourselves out. So growing a large amount of single species of a plant. Let's see, desertification, sustainable agriculture, kind of just, we'll go back and we'll talk about these for just a second. I don't want the video to go too long. Desertification says when soil is degraded by agriculture to the point at which there is no longer productive. If you look here on the map that we see, the red parts and the yellow parts are where desertification has occurred. You see the root word is desert, okay? So anywhere you see this is where we see there are desert-like type places where they don't get a whole lot of water. Out towards Arizona, out towards New Mexico, here in Africa, you've got near the Sahara Desert. You've got here in South America, on the eastern side of South America, where we have a lot of desert. Here, you've got the Middle East, where there's a lot of desert. So desertification, that's where that's happened. We've degraded the land so much that we can't use it anymore, and when we can't use it anymore, therefore it's going to harm the water cycle. It's not going to get as much rain. All right, so that's desertification. The next thing is sustainable agriculture, producing enough food to feed the world's population without destroying the land, polluting the environment, reducing biodiversity. That's what we try to do today. We try to be sustainable, all right, when we make our foods. Intercropping, 2 or more crop species are planted in the same field at the same time. That helps us with desertification. Crop rotation, 1 year we plant corn, next year we plant cotton, the next year we plant soybeans. Then we come back, the next year we plant corn again. And we just get it on rotation, and you see different farmers do that. We talk about contour plowing and harvesting parallel to the land to prevent erosion. You see that a lot of times with contour planting, you see it on the side of a hill a lot of times. So we have to, and you'll see this a lot in Japan, you see it a lot of places in the Philippines where they have higher elevations, and those higher elevations they use the contour planting. Intercropping here, you've got, say basil versus kale, all right, in this, basil and kale. Here, you've got agroforestry, so we're planting trees inside of where we're planting the plants. So that's where we're doing our planting. Things that maybe need some shade, this is where we use them. No-till agriculture, obviously it's in the word. You're just not going to till the land up. That helps the land. That helps not decertify the land. Helps with decertification. And we'll pick up from here because this really starts getting us into the GMOs at this point. So we've talked about the different types of farming. We've talked about contour plowing, we've talked about agroforestry, we've talked about intercropping, we've talked about no-till farming, we've talked about conventional agriculture, we've talked about traditional agriculture. We've talked about the pesticides. Are they organic or are they inorganic? And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you one assignment that goes along with this after you've watched this video. So you're just going to go back, you're going to answer those few quick questions there to help you do this for environmental science. Like I said earlier, don't become overwhelmed. If you have a question, please ask me. Please email me. I'm going to put some stuff on the computer this morning that talks about a Zoom from a certain time to a certain time for you guys. If you do have questions, you want to get on there and talk with me about something maybe you're doing in class, or if you just want to pop in and say, hey, that'll be fine. It's because we miss you guys. I know that. And then the last thing is, if you need anything, if somebody's sick in your family, you don't have a way of getting food, you don't have a way of getting water, you don't have a way of getting something that's essential that you need, please get in touch with me. You can get in touch with Mr. Tittle, or get in touch with me, and I can get you in touch with the right people. We can figure something out. I can come help you personally. Just know that. So your health and your safety is the most important thing. The next most important thing is stay at home. All right, guys, it's the only way we're going to fight this thing. It's something that seems a little overwhelming, but we will get through it. Just remember that. We're going to get through this, and we'll be back here at school next year, especially for you juniors. You seniors, we'll be seeing you sometime. We'll get you in that graduation sometime in June, hopefully, and we'll be rocking right along. So, appreciate you guys.